Hey y'all. So coming back to y'all, let me tell y'all. This morning, I'm Jamekia, by the way. If you're new to this page, it's your girl. But this morning I was in Clubhouse and we had a conversation in my room with Black Coffee, Honey, and Grits. And it was narratives. I mean, not narratives. That was part of the title though. It was choices and false narratives was the title. And let me tell y'all, there was some things that I wanted to get across, but the conversation went exactly how it needed to go across. And so some of the questions I posed about three questions. One of the questions were, what are some choices that you make that you give? What are some choices that you've made recently that you've given yourself false narratives about? Maybe it was something that you were going to do and you decided not to because you thought maybe you thought it was going to be difficult, you thought it was going to be hard, it was going to be too much. Um, Excuse me, so sorry. Or something that you actually did. Maybe it was something you said, no, I'm not going to do it. And then you went against, your first judgment and say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and do it. And even though you thought it was going to be something rough and hard, that it wound up being very easy, very simple. And so we had this conversation about the choices we make and the false narratives that we create. And what I noticed is that a lot of people create a lot of false narratives about how things may turn out, especially in relationship to other people. Like, we have these ideas, and this was something that I brought up, is that we have these ideas that people are going to respond a certain way to things. So maybe you're trying a new business and you think everybody's going to support you, and then come to find out none of the people who you really felt would support you did. Or maybe you think, oh, I don't want to start this business because nobody's going to support me, and then turn out everyone's doing, supporting you majorly in purchasing whatever it is that you're selling. I don't know, but these were just some of the things that we were talking about. And then, of course, for some reason, when we have these conversations and we're talking about ourselves, it's very difficult for many people to tap into those conversations because they don't know what to say about themselves. They don't know what to believe or disbelieve, or the contentment that they have about themselves. So, a lot of times it's something that you don't want to join. But as soon as we change the conversation and we make it a reflection on others, then people are like, they can always see the fault in others. And so another piece of the conversation wasn't necessarily to see the fault in others, but to realize, like, choices and false narratives that others have put on you. So that was one of the questions. What is a choice or a false narrative that someone else had given you? And then what did you do in response to that? And so, sorry, y'all. And so, one of those things that we talked about, a lot of people talked about, it is goes back to parenting, right? And goes back to their childhood, and what the parents said they could and couldn't do, what the parents told them they should and shouldn't believe, and how when they did what was best for them, what they felt was necessarily best for them, how those aspects changed their lives significantly. Um, I even told about a part of my story how, you know, someone had told me, okay, you're going to go off to college, you're going to wind up pregnant, you're not going to be anything, you're not going to do anything, you're going to come right back here and you're going to be a failure. And then, of course, I went to college. Uh, the first semester was rocky. It was rocky because, of course, when I got up there, I had to learn, I had to teach myself how to learn. I had to teach myself how to study. And I've always had to kind of teach myself do little things here and there. But it was so major for me because when I was in school, at home, in high school, middle school, whatever else, I did not have to study in order for me to be successful. I was a B student, and every now and again I would get a C, and this was without trying. So of course, when I went to college, I thought, yeah, you could do this, and I think I failed two classes, but they were at different times. But getting a F was very dramatic. It was very dramatic, traumatic. Look, traumatizing. It was a lot of things for me, and one of the things that my mother told me then at that point in time, because I was boohoo crying. Like, I was like, I've never received the F. I've never da 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 da. And she was like, well, did you learn something? I was like, I learned a lot. I just learned everything later than I needed to. every time I finally got it, it was a week or two later, and we're learning something new, and now I'm trying to catch up and learn this, and then of course another week or two later, um, and I was going to what are they called? Going to different tutors, and each tutor, because I was going to free programs, I didn't have the funds to purchase or to hire a tutor. So I was going to these free programs for people tutored, and each tutor had their own separate ways of teaching you, you know, these algorithms, these thoughts and stuff. Excuse me, y'all. All right, my bad, y'all. But yeah, so each tutor had their own way and own method of teaching these concepts, and so I was learning them from two, three different ways of doing them, and then of course, for me trying to choose something that works best for me, it just put me behind, and then of course I took the class again and got a D. So I went from an F to a D, and I'm like, why? Like this is crazy. But of course, still learning. In one of the classes that I had to take, the third time I took it, I got a C. So of course, for me, yeah, I am learning something. I am, putting different concepts and ideas down. And I think this was um, somewhere between, it was one of the math courses that I was taking. I think one was like a microbiology or something, one of those. Um, or not maybe not biology. Uh, economics, minor, macro economics, something. I don't know. But there were three classes, I believe, but two of which had to deal with math, with numbers, which made me change my degree to English, to language arts, randomly enough, because I wanted to be in business when I initially started school. And excuse me, what was so funny too is that not only did not only was it with these like 1101 or whatever, I don't even know what it is, Mac 1101 or whatever, the algebra that I had to take, the mathematics that I had to take, it was in these big classrooms with almost 200 people. And so of course you got this teacher, you're seeing this teacher up here, um in this I don't even know, I'm catching a whole blank, y'all. I can see it and can't say it. But you have, this teacher standing out front. Sorry, I gotta move this camera. So you got this teacher standing up front, and you got 200 something students. And of course, some of the people were saying, yeah, they have these classes this way because they're trying to cut a lot of people off. And um it was just a different type of dynamic for me, especially when you come from a school having like 25 people max in a class and being able to raise your hand and ask questions. And now you're in this stadium. That's the question, the word I was looking for. But now being in this stadium like classroom, and you're just like trying to rush and take notes, that you can't even process what is being taught because you're trying to take notes and whatever else. I digress. This went on a whole different tangent than where I was supposed to begin. But needless to say, in situations where I struggled, but because of that comment and that false narrative that was thrown on me, I just could not give up. My thing was not to give up. I wasn't really worried about the whole getting pregnant thing necessarily. Um, you know, any of those comments, but my success had to have happened. Period. And like I said, in the room, we were just talking about these false narratives that people put on our lives, and people, a lot of people were saying like, "Hey, this person told me, X, Y, and Z." Is all these negative things that you hear, that were told to them, and how they did not subscribe to it, and so we also left the room where people were giving their comments about what do you do when you do hear these false narratives, you do hear these false things, and in order to keep yourself, stable and in one position. And I know for myself, I listed out a couple of things and then had opened it up to the room for other people to make their own personal comments and recommendations. For me, I was like, sometimes the people have the audacity to say these things to you, so you should have just as much audacity. And this was another room that we had too, is having the audacity. But you should have just as much audacity to stop them in their tracks as they're talking and say, no, I'm not claiming that, or no, I rebuke that if you Christian, or no, that goes against everything that I believe and stand in, and I'm not going to allow your negative words to influence my sphere. my spirit of life, my spirit of perception and expectations for myself. And sometimes you have to cancel things out immediately because some of these words do take root. Like when you're just being silent, and this was another recommendation for some people, is just to be silent and ignore it and dismiss the person. But sometimes when you're being silent, your brain is still picking those things up because you have not said no to it. Um, so that's one thing. Well, that's two for you. Another one is allow your no's to be no's and stand firmly on it. Allow your yes to be yes and start firmly on it and in it. So know who you are, and allow your word to be just that, your word. So that was a third thing. Three and four actually. Three, know who you are. And then four, allow your words to be exactly what they mean. You allow your yes to be yes and your no to be no. And again, these are all things that can help you when you're in these moments and cycles where false narratives that are presenting themselves. And of course, another one that I recently have started to process through, well, it's a two-parter too, um, is, well, the one that's not so recent is actually putting myself in the moment and stop trying to think for other people and stop trying to try to foresee stuff and allow life to happen in the moment that it's happening. Allow myself to have a conversation and converse with people, and allow them to, if they're going to say no, allow them to say no, and not me trying to be reliant on a particular thing or item, and say this is what this person's going to say, because no, that's my one aspect of myself with their voice. And so that's one. And then the other one, in order to get yourself in the moment, sometimes you just have to say change. If you're feeling a certain way, thinking a certain thing in a process where you're just like, this isn't working, and oh my gosh, and you're becoming anxious, right? And building anxiety because you're not in the present moment. Sometimes you just need to say change. For me, I'm learning that sometimes movement works along with the words that you're saying. I would put my hand on my heart, and y'all know I like to hear change. That's the new one for me, because I want to remain cognizant of the things that I'm experiencing, and I want to make sure that I'm addressing it right here now, and allow my body to have that response, and to understand the shift must take place immediately. Even if the actual physical what's happening isn't changing, the emotions and the thought process is what has to be adjusted. And it's a couple of reasons why, and I'm gonna say these real quick before I go. One is because what we do is sometimes we're in a place where we're always choosing the same experience, choosing similar experience. Our body is used to a certain stress level. Our body is used to us producing certain hormones and things within it, and so it's going to work at that state. And so when you're in a place where you're trying to make adjustments and you're trying to change who you are and change your reality, there's some action steps that you're gonna have to put in place for yourself that are gonna be very discomforting, right? Very uncomfortable for you, because it is producing change. Change is inevitable. Number one, you can either go through it easily, easy or hard. You can, and when I say hard means that change is coming, but you're trying to push against the change, which is going to give you a little bit more work. Or and it's gonna be, I won't say it's detrimental, because it's not, because everything that I do, I don't know about yourself, but my own self, everything that I do and I experience is for my greater good. So that's period, point blank. So even when if I'm trying to push back against that change, it's gonna happen inevitable, but it's just gonna be a little bit more difficult. And maybe that's because there's some things that I may not be accepting. The second piece is, you can either do it, you can voluntarily go through change, and you can see it coming, and you can, well, let's see, it's three parts. The voluntarily go through changes that you put yourself in a place where you can start going through situations to change the experiences that you're having, and be aware of it and be more cognizant. And when you start to sense discomfort, understand that the discomfort is only because your body has to shift along with your mind and your thought process, right? Your mental. The other piece is that change is going to come, and you just ride the wave of change. And there's nothing that you have to initiate. There's nothing that you're trying to prevent. You're just seeing the way that the flows of life is going for you, and you're just taking that on, and becoming comfortable in the idea that something has to change and adjust for you, and know for yourself, because there's a difference between belief and to know. If you believe something, then you don't really know it, but if you know something, there's no belief behind it. Like, you know it to be true. It's a true thing for you. So, and a belief is just a thought that you keep thinking. So that's why I say it's the difference between you thinking something and having a belief, and then actually knowing something and it is true and it is definite for you. Um, but I digress, because I don't want to go too far into any fields, because I'm not writing anything down. I'm not reading anything to y'all, and y'all know I be all over the place. But ultimately, one of the things that I want to leave on here before I head out is do some introspection. Do take some time to yourself and look at those things that the choices and the false narratives, the choices that you make for yourself, because everything that you choose, whether somebody influenced you, there's a sphere of influence, whether somebody influenced you or not, it's something that you decided to do. And whether it was good or bad, identify the false narrative that runs behind it and beside it and between it, whatever it may be, because that doesn't mean that you can't do it again, and it doesn't mean that you should do it again. But understand how you feel and what you're thinking as you're experiencing certain things, because when you get ready to change your life, you get ready to adjust, these are the things that come up and become very reoccurring. And as it reoccurs for you, you're confirming certain things based off of your belief system. And so you want to make sure that you're not confirming those false ideas to create a false reality that you really don't want to live in. But you want to make yourself aware of it. And then of course, go back and listen to this video again. Write down some of those action steps. If you need to, join me in one of my classes, or join me on a live, or whatever. I would say listen to these videos and join the live, so that you can receive some free information in the class. Yeah, you pay, but you pay for my experiences. You're paying for the strategizing that you need in order for you to make those shifts. That you're paying for accountability, whatever it may be. I'm not here trying to sell nobody on nothing right now. But my biggest thing, just to be very serious, is that if you're in a place and in a situation where you're living a life and you're not excited about your life, or you're not, joyous, or, you don't have moments at least where you feel contentment, then, or if you're in a place where you're just feeling miserable, you can change that today. You can change your own self, your own life, your own belief, your own thought patterns, all of the today. But it's one step at a time. It's not gonna be overnight. It's one step at a time. But all right, y'all. If you haven't already, please click up above and be sure to subscribe to the channel down below. Like, share, comment. Please share this out, because I know this message is for somebody. Somebody need to hear this. Y'all know I ain't really been on here like I wanted to the past like 3-4 days. I ain't been recording like I want to. But I'm gonna get something out, and I'm gonna push it to y'all. Look, I'm gonna get y'all. I'm gonna give y'all something every time. But all right, y'all. I love y'all. I'll see y'all later. Bye.